Hi, and welcome to the New Norm, Post-Pandemic Small Business, Economic, and Community Wellness Development Series. Today we're going to be talking about something very important to our county, Polk, our region, our state, and our nation, and that is tourism and sports marketing, and what that looks like beyond summer 2020. As we know, we've all been shut down for now quite a few months, and nothing has taken a hit greater than tourism and sports marketing in Polk County. On today's segment, we're going to feature, of course, Sylvia Blackman Roberts, who will be giving us a local small business development update. We also will be talking with Cindy Gianamasso, President of Haines City EDC. She'll be sharing a little bit about what's happening in economic development in our region, as well as Lena Stripling, who is Northeast Polk Chamber of Commerce. And our guest speaker for today, Mark Jackson, Director of Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing, will be joining us and sharing with us what is happening today, what some of the strategies are for the future, and what we can be expecting in the days and the weeks and the months to come. So I want to welcome you. And Cindy, if you would like to begin today's discussion from the Office of the Haines City Economic Development Council, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. Glad to be here. So we have a new industry in our industrial park. It's a concrete manufacturer, and they closed last week. And so they're looking at January 2021 to be up and running. So we're working with the city now on the development of this project. In addition to, we're working on 100 plus acres. That is a Duke Energy site, and Duke Energy and the EDC have partnered up to do a drone video on this site and to get that out and market as soon as possible. So we're excited about that.
That is exciting. You know, if you take a drive really anywhere on the ridge, there's a lot happening right now, and it is exciting. It's very encouraging. So thank you for that update, and we look forward to hearing some more information with regard to reemployment rates. Notice I didn't say unemployment. I'm excited to see employers putting people back to work. And you know, I went into a store earlier this morning, and and I don't, obviously we're not going to mention the store's name, but went into a store earlier this morning and was asked to put on a face mask to be in the store. And that's the first time that store-wide I've entered that environment in our county. And I thought, wow, that really speaks to kind of what we're seeing happen now. We are in a new norm. Things are very different, and we're all trying to catch up to that as much as we can. So thank you again for sharing the positivity that we have going on in economic development that's continuing regardless of what's happening in COVID-19. We see our big guys out there building and getting ready for business, and that's great. Lena, how are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Do you want to share an update? Do you have anything that is new in our Polk 2020, our CARE 2020 program?
I do. There is still money available. We have seen a lot of people come into our office this week for assistance with the grants. So we're getting it out there. I think people are finally realizing. I actually had two business owners in yesterday that we were talking about something totally different, and they had no idea that they could apply. And I'm like, guys, you got to apply. So yeah. I still encourage everyone, promote it, get it out there. We're seeing, I sat in on a call on Wednesday. They are a bit behind as far as processing, only because some of the workers that were in the call center and helping them with that went back to their normal jobs, but they have hired employees, full-time employees, to come in and process the applications and get those checks issued. So there is still money for the residential and the business owners. We're working very hard here to try to get it out. And talking about face masks, just want to tell you the Chamber of Commerce has a supply of face masks for businesses or residents to come by, and they're free of charge. So share with anybody that you know if the businesses need face masks for their business. We'll be more than happy to share those with them.
That's wonderful. And for those of you that may not know, Lena's office is located right in front of Sonny's on Highway 27 in Haines City, and definitely that is a great gift to the community to be able to share that with some of our small business owners. And speaking of small business, I'm going to ask Miss Sylvia Blackman Roberts to share with us an update for small businesses in East Polk County and Polk County in general.
Well, hello, everybody, and it's so wonderful to be back. And I'm going to piggyback off Elena because she's kind of said the things that I see going on as well. People are still learning about the CARES 2020 money. I'm so surprised when, as much as it's being advertised, but every time I get a phone call, I start with that question. And it's about 50-50 that people haven't heard about it. And so, as Lena said, there's still money. There is still, so all I can say is please continue to contact us, and then we will definitely continue to help businesses. Also, Lena brought up about the masks. I've talked to several of the Chamber of Commerce, and they all, I know Winter Haven and Lakeland both told me that they have masks that they're able to distribute to their businesses as well.
Wonderful.
So for those listening, please share the word that if you're having any problem as a small business to get masks, that there are some resources there. I've also started a conversation with the county about the possibility of using some of the CARES money to even help even more with the purchasing of masks or hand sanitizer or any of those things that small businesses are now having to purchase in a larger quantity in order to open up. I will tell you, the biggest thing still is the masks. I've been in several meetings with the masks, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, it's become, when I say unfortunately, it's become more political than it really needs to be. As I am now telling people, if you don't believe in the science, if you don't believe in that you want to be taken care of for the other fellow person, then I'm saying do it for your job. Because if we shut down again, and I know that's a small chance in terms of an official shutdown, but if the businesses can't sustain, if people are not coming in, if things like that are happening, we're going to have another unofficial shutdown. So I am just encouraging people to please look at the instituting a mask policy. We don't want somebody to have to mandate that to us. But instead, let's do it on our own and do what we need to do. So that's what my conversations have been mostly have been about since last week. For those who are now buying in, they're looking for where can they get them. So thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for stepping up to be one of those distribution location for masks.
Definitely.
So that's my report since last week.
Wonderful. And, yes, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for stepping up to the plate on the mask issue, but also for being that bridge and filling that gap for small business owners in our community of Polk, because this time remains a fearful time for small business owners, and they need to know that there are unified agents in their community that are locking arms to make sure that that their greatest possible success can still continue as we're all learning what we're going to do in the new norm. So thank you very much, Sylvia. We're glad to see you back and with us on the show, and that's a great update. And I do want to just stress again that the Polk Cares 2020 fund is available. You'll hear us talk about that frequently. Lena Stripling with the Northeast Polk Chamber of Commerce mentioned that she has seen several people in, and even recently as this week, Miss Sylvia Roberts also just mentioned that, we still have people coming in. in Haines City through the CRA office. We did 2 applications just this week. And you go, well, that's not a lot. There's money out there, and we still have people that do not realize that the fund is there. So please continue to share the word with small business owners. The qualifications for this particular grant are extremely simple in comparison to any grant that I have ever seen or applied for myself. So our county is doing everything possible to get money into the hands of these small business owners to keep them open and ready for business. So thank you. Thank you all very much for your update. So without further ado, I am going to say hello to Mr. Mark Jackson, who is the Director for Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. Mark, we are thrilled that you are here. I think that there cannot be something more important to discuss than what's happening in sports marketing and tourism in our community. I've been in many conversations in the past several weeks. Those of us that put together special events and have done this for many years in our county, we certainly see the impact that not having gatherings has caused. So we're anxious to hear what your thoughts are today about where we are. And so welcome, Mark, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Jane. Good to see everybody again. Some of you I haven't seen in a while, but at least I get to see a Zoom.
Right?
Whatever. Hey, by the way, there's 2 of my directors are with me. They're to my right, and they're sitting over there.
Hi, guys.
Okay. Justin LaFerrier is joining us remotely. He's up at the visitor center doing what he does best. But Mark, of course, our economic development for tourism and sports, but also the former director of sports for Polk County Tourism and Sports. Chris Caprios, who's also sort of a famous guy, he heads up our Visit Central Florida brand, so that really deals with all the tourism. So most of the questions, or some of the questions that I may not be able to answer as thoroughly as my peers here, they will be able to bail me out, which is not an infrequent occurrence. So there you have it. It's really interesting because some of the data just came out today from the feds about some really encouraging news, and I'm a perpetual optimist. For those of you that know me pretty well, and I think that everybody on the panel probably does, some better than others. But some of the news out of the Fed is that wages and salaries, I think I got that right. Yeah, wages and salaries really have showed in May some green shoots. They increased, actually shot up 2.5% in May, which is unheard of.
Right.
Which
Awesome.
Now really puts the level at about 8.6% below the pre-COVID level in February. So wages and salaries are coming back. It doesn't discount the fact that here in Polk County, we have 19% unemployment rate. That's sad. Right. And I don't care who you are, and a lot of people feel that the economic malaise or pandemic is worse than the disease itself. You can argue back and forth on that depending on what political bench you are. But consumer spending, another macro variable, rose 8.2% in May, which is a record for this country. Yeah. It was remarkable. So really, really pleased with that. The last record that increased was after 9/11 in 2001, and eclipsed that by a mile. And durable goods, that shot up 29% in May. So we're seeing some recovery here. That's all really, really good news. Tourism is coming back as well. But one of the questions that Jane and Cindy gave me a heads up on or a preview of had to do with, what does the future look like? But I think before we start with the future, it's important to talk about where do we stand now? Right. How bad was this county hit? That 19% unemployment, a large part of it was the service sector, tourism and hospitality, and so on and so forth. Those are some real disturbing trends. When we got shut down, I'm not even sure that's grammatically correct. When we were shut down, Here's kind of where the tourism industry stood. So March, we were down about 49% in terms of tourism revenue to Polk County. Now, mindful that tourism in the state of Florida is our number one industry, tourism in Polk County is our number one industry. And it's particularly a germane comment relative to the Northeast, Haines City, Davenport, Northeast Polk, because so many of our citizens, so many of our businesses are tourism related. You've got some unbelievable assets up there, everything from, Southern Dunes to Providence to, there's just so many good things up in the Northeast quadrant. But April was horrible. We hit bottom in April. Occupancy in, this is hotels and motels only, was down just about 53%. So remember now in March 28th, the governor's office banned or shut down all vacation rental homes. Well, that's predominantly the source of overnight stays and accommodations for the Northeast quadrant. And it's about half of our revenue or tourism tax collections. Well, unfortunately, in April, revenue, total hotel and motel revenue, get this number, was down 73.1%. Well, what does that do to cash flow for these businesses? They don't have any. We're getting occupancy reports of 5 to 10% in some properties, and May was better. May jumped about 15% in occupancy, only down compared to the prior year, 36.9%. Total revenue was down 57.4%. Hotels and motels only. Remember, in May, as well as April, vacation rental homes were collecting zero tax, virtually zero. So pretty sad situation, and that's the state of affairs. But in June, here's the uptick. Here's the good news. The downfall was down so far in June, 23.7% in occupancy, and revenue is down 39%, just hotels and motels. But the vacation rental homes were allowed to open on May 27th here in Polk County. Now, we wrote a letter to the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. The governor approved it. About that same time, a little bit after that, we managed to do that for Legoland as well. But here's the really, really good news. Between June 11th and June 14th, we had 3 major sporting events here in Polk County, big ones. We had a 116 perfect game baseball tournament, a 50-team flag football tournament, and a massive United States Practical Shooting Association national championships down in Frostproof. That 4-day period, compared to the prior year, we were only down in hotels and motels 9.35% compared to the prior year. So that's a huge, huge jump. Now in revenue, we were still down 19.7%. The reason that there's such a discrepancy between the two is our average daily rate has gone down. So the average price per room per night has declined simply because the demand has declined. That demand starts going up, what's called average daily rate will start going back up. It's a fundamental and a very simple economic principle, but that's what's happening.
That sounds great.
And
I just want to mention really quick for our viewers that there are some folks that are on Facebook Live with me, but this is a Zoom platform meeting that is done collaboratively with Polk Government TV, which is PGTV, and so you may be seeing some things happen in this viewing that don't look exactly like normal viewing would be in a television situation. So I just wanted to let you know that specifically for the Facebook people who I'm not looking at all during this segment. So, okay. All right. And great to hear from Chris. And as a huge arts advocate myself and the work that he does for the arts, welcome.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to crash the Zoom meeting.
Welcome. We're glad you're here.
So yeah, I guess just to piggyback on what Mark was talking about, really how we've navigated through these uncharted waters that we've all talked about since really the middle of March. From a tourism perspective, like you said, everything it changes every day. So what we've done is really follow the consumer sentiment since the middle of March. I think we're on about the 15th or 16th week of consumer sentiment studies that our staff has been following on a weekly basis. And really, what we're seeing now, obviously, some of the numbers are spiking. So this is going to be a day in, day out thing. Optimism for travel right now, as of today, has stalled. But like Mark was saying too, and to your point or question about those hot spots or places that are a little safer to go to, we have definitely seen an uptick in tourists coming to the area. And one thing that we've really kind of leaned on going in that we've learned through the data, our own data and national data, is the recovery is going to start locally in our local communities.
Yes.
People have to feel safe to go to their local businesses first, and we have to keep those local businesses afloat so they're there when our visitors start coming back. So that's really one thing that's kind of been different for us. We've never really done local campaigns other than for our visitor center, getting people to go there and learn about their own backyard. But we are actively have some campaigns out there to get our locals back out, get them feeling comfortable, and that's really one thing. Like Mark said as well, we've really built our recovery plan on three main pillars: our research that we're doing day in, day out, a brand new strategic marketing plan that we started from scratch because, like I said, there is no roadmap for this. So we couldn't just erase a few lines in our old plan and fill in COVID-19. We started from page one and created a new plan. And then we have an entirely brand new health and safety plan for our destination. That covers everywhere from our sporting events to how we're going to keep visitors as safe as possible in our destination. So really those three documents are guiding this recovery, and through the ups and the downs and the changes in the numbers, we just have to follow those and continue to follow the data.
You mentioned, Chris, the consideration for safety while attending events and sporting activities. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those safety measures look like? How does that change the atmosphere of, say, a baseball game at Tiger Stadium, for instance? What does that look like moving forward?
Well, really, we can just hope to be able to be in the stands for a baseball game at Joker, Joker Marching. But no, to your point, and also, obviously Mark Zimmerman's here as well and can speak to this better than I can. But just from a tourism standpoint and on the sporting event side, social distancing is in place. Obviously, when we have these events like Mark talked about out here, part of our overall health and safety plan for our destination, a big part of that is for the sporting events and having the sprayers that can spray down, and working with our local municipalities that are helping us host these events, making sure they're equipped with those types of things that can spray down and disinfect between games. We have signage up everywhere, whether it's locally in our restaurants, in our accommodations, to remind people to be socially distant. And also we're working literally before we got on this Zoom call today, we're working on a local campaign to encourage all those steps that our destination needs to take as citizens to remain safe, to slow the spread down, from wearing masks, staying distant, to washing hands and things like that. So we're making sure we get that information out there as many ways as we can through those different programs. But it's a comprehensive plan, a health and safety plan, about 30 some pages, and it touches everything from our sporting events to our meetings and conventions, which is a completely different ball game, pun intended, I guess, as well. Because that's going to be that's just like the sporting events. How do you be social distance in a meeting and convention in closed space? So those are all things that we're having to follow the data and figure out as we go and follow our plan.
Absolutely. What do you see?
Chris,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Chris to talk a little bit about the three sectors that are primary drivers of tourism here. One is the leisure traveler, our biggest one. Sports is number two, and third are meetings and conventions.
Right.
But they aren't coming back at the same pace. And so our marketing strategy is really targeted to different groups at different times with the right message at the right time. You really have to be sensitive to that. Mm-hmm. And that's the importance of this research. You can't say that enough about how valuable. We've had our own research company do 3 waves of research, and then we garnered all this national data as well, and it's just massive amounts. But Chris, talk about those 3 categories, because it impacts everybody up in the 4 corners area.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does, and that's a great point, and that's how we're having to segment this plan. And really, we've seen it. The recovery has started. We thought it would maybe start with those leisure travelers, but again, going back to the consumer sentiment, and people are a little leery to travel. And yeah, they may get out in their community, but those drive market trips, we're trying to work on those as far as the target market. But sports, really, we've seen it as we have in the past, being recession resistant and now pandemic resistant in a way, has started to lead our recovery.
Mark, is there a number that, an approximation of what this kind of economic impact, what has been the economic impact to our community with regard to COVID-19 at this point, or are those numbers even available at this time?
We haven't done a detailed analysis of that. That will be more of a forensic exercise.
Right.
What I can tell you, it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars for this county. We talk about the multiplier effect. When new money comes into a community, that it gets respent and then respent and then respent again. Mm-hmm. That's all part of that multiplier effect. Well, the multiplier effect works in reverse too. When that goes away, there's a significant decrease, not just in the money that hasn't been spent here, but the money that hasn't been spent, hasn't been respent, and hasn't been respent. So it's easily in the $200 to $300 million range. We lost a half of our busiest month of the year, which was March. April and February are arguably neck and neck. So we totally, not totally, but we pretty much lost most of April. May was a little bit better, as we talked about, but the fallout from this, and that doesn't, those are the hard numbers to some degree, but you've got to look at the soft impact on our society. Mm-hmm. What has been the stress? What has been the impact of social programs, of school, of all these things on families in this county that we're not seeing right now. But what we are seeing is a pretty significant spike in the use of alcohol, the use of drugs, yes, and everything else. Right. Heck, I couldn't go to Gary's for 2 months, for heaven's sakes. I mean, that's a joke. I didn't even hardly get a smile out of Cindy, but the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a heart, then, well, you're off the planet. But if you do have a heart and you don't have some sympathy, some empathy for these people and these families that are yes, undergoing the stress, the economic stress that's leading to other problems. I mean, you think about little things like, number of friends, even a family member that, goes to AA on a weekly or, whatever basis. And, their meetings have been shut down. Well, what kind of an impact is that going to have right, on people that are struggling with chemical dependency or other issues like that? It's been a travesty. So it goes beyond the numbers, and that's, maybe shows a little bit of my heart, but that's my biggest concern. That's why we simply can't shut this economy down. It just can't happen again. Not with the statistics that I cited earlier about the numbers are going up, but relative to the population, it's minuscule.
Right.
So, anyway, there's sort of a semi-political statement.
I do not expect anything
making
less.
One. No, I'll get yelled at by Cindy after this if I do.
Well, I appreciate the consideration for what's happening socially in this discussion. Without events, without activity, without sporting, without gathering in general, we are seeing unbelievable spikes in mental health issues, not just in our our county, obviously. So I do think that it's very important to talk about that and to bring that into the discussion of economy. Mental health is everything right now with regard to, am I safe to go out? If I go out, do I need to wear a mask? I mean, there's a lot of thought that goes to this. Oh, it'll just be easier just to stay home. But then if I stay home, depression sets in, and those are the kind of things that start happening. And so I love that you actually mentioned that. And yes, you do have a heart. It's why you are absolutely sought for when we need information, because we know you're speaking from a place that's extremely real for all of us. So thank you for that.
Well, Jane, one of the areas that, and I know you're sort of a jock, but you know, I think most everybody is on the call, at least at one time or the other. But we do have a jock that we do have in the room, and that's Mark Zimmerman, who's our economic developer. One of the best moves that we made is adding an economic development position. You know, for the city of Haines City, you know, the CRA, and I'm telling you what Cindy's doing with economic development in Haines City is phenomenal.
It's huge.
I mean, it's just, she's done more in her tenure than has probably been done. I'll leave that one alone.
But, right. Cindy's shaking her head. Hi, Mark.
Well, one, the city has made the investment. You know, Derek Fiecher has totally supported it. He's supported with the CRA, which I back as well. You know, it's really, really important to any community to have that, because if you don't have that economic engine, or those economic engines to make it plural, you know, our community is sucking wind. There's no doubt. And we're seeing that now. Mm-hmm. Now is the best time to see what a slowdown in commerce causes. And it isn't just financial. Anyway, to my right is Mark Zimmerman. I know the light might be a little bit bad, but maybe I could lower that shade, Chris. But the fact of the matter
Mark.
is, he can bring you up to speed on the massive undertaking in sports. And like Chris said, this is really leading our comeback for tourism, the tourism industry here in Polk County. So Mark, why don't you talk about whatever you want to talk about? Your kids, you know, how things going?
I think we'll keep it to sports. Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you all for doing this, and we're happy to, you know, provide additional information. I guess Mark's going to try to get my lighting correct, stop the glare a little bit. So one of the things I did want to say, you know, Chris kind of mentioned it, and we definitely did originally think our thoughts were that the leisure traveler would lead the comeback. But he mentioned the hesitancy and the consumer sentiment, still maybe a little hesitant to travel. And we thought that sports, being that, you know, it's a gathering of people, that those would be impacted to a greater extent than they have been. And you all can't see it, but when I look outside Mark's window here, we have a baseball tournament going on today in Auburndale at the Lake Myrtle Sports Complex. And what you see are, instead of fans all crowded into the stands, you see fans spread out amongst all down the foul line. They're socially distancing. There's hand washing stations. Chris mentioned the signage, reminding people to you know, act in appropriate ways, to continue to be safe. So those are things that are happening at all of our events. We see people making sure that they are staying apart from the people they should not be with. So it's been great. Mark mentioned we had 3 events, kind of kicked off our first weekend back. That led to 11 total events in June. Now, that's certainly not what we normally would have had, but we're very excited about those numbers. And on top of that, it just keeps growing after that, where we have 18 events coming up in July, 20 in August. And I know Mark probably remembers the days. I certainly remember the days, having been here 20 years, when half a dozen events in August was a good number. Right. So we have 20 events coming up this August. Now, a lot of those have been events that we rebooked, that we lost in April or May. So that's great that we were able to, Neil Duncan and his staff were able to rebook these events and keep them in our county.
Wonderful.
In addition, we picked up a few other events that were in counties that were impacted to a greater extent and are not at where we are. So we were able to help by relocating those events, because those events were not going to happen where they were. So we picked up a really large bowling event for the end of July into August that would have been normally in Fort Lauderdale this year, and it'll take place at Cypress Lanes in Winter Haven. And those events have been here in the past. They stay all over when they're here. So they're very in tune with our style of accommodations here in Polk County, not only just hotels, but vacation rentals. And so they're very excited about those coming back. But through the end of the year, we have 127 events scheduled right now. And that's through the end of the calendar year.
That's wonderful.
So that's great news. And you know, probably the biggest one that we were able to save was Ironman. Ironman was right there in the middle of April. And certainly was not going to happen. So that now is booked for the second weekend in December.
Oh, exciting. That is such good news. 13th.
Still right there at Lake Eva Park in Haines City. So we're very excited about that. That's an awesome event. And then obviously it'll hopefully, as long as everything's good, it will follow again in April. So we'll have those almost back to back. So that's kind of the event story. But more on my side, and Neil Duncan would have been here, but Mark let him go on vacation for a few days, and so it's I had to jump back into this side of the organization. But more on my side, we are still working to develop facilities, and the one that's coming down the line the quickest is the baseball fields that we're partnering with the county Parks and Recreation Department on at Northeast Regional Park. So those we have picked designers, we have picked construction, we have picked engineers. That's well underway. So those fields will be ready for this upcoming spring.
That's exciting.
So that's a big impact. We've been booking events there on the football and soccer, the multi-purpose type fields, but to have baseball going on there. In addition, that's not going to be just an impact of bringing events in, but baseball fields are desperately needed in that area as well. And they'll all be turf fields. They'll be able to be, changed on the distances for the pitching mounds and the base paths. So young kids will be able to play on these fields all the way through college age. So we're very excited that that's coming along this spring, and we're looking forward to that being another piece of inventory that we get to fill up in our county.
That's exciting. And, Mark, I know that, for the sake of our viewers, I want to stress the importance of seeing the return to events that you just mentioned for our economy. And Mark Jackson, just a moment ago, touched on what that looks like in numbers because of the multiplier and the way that works. What would you say, Mark Zimmerman, what would you say, I have to say Zimmerman or we lose it on, we lose it in the marks. They can both answer this, though I know they can. So what would you say, looking right this moment at the state of tourism and sports marketing in Polk County, knowing that we have a national and a global issue that's beyond what we're touching right now? What would you say would be your number one concern? What would be the thing that has you thinking right now about reopen and how that's working with regard to tourism and sports marketing?
And I'm sure Mark will want to comment on this because we may have some different concerns. Certainly from the sports marketing side, the number one concern is seeing that we're able to get back to everything that we're able to get back to. So, we are looking at right now, I mentioned the events, as of right now, until about the middle of July, all the events we have are outdoor events. So we'll start in middle of July with indoor events. Okay. And they're going to be done right. I mean, they're going to be done where, it's a limited capacity on the inside, in the buildings and to make sure that people can distance while they're in there. And running different shifts for events. So a group, the 8 o'clock shift comes in and then they all leave and the 10 o'clock shift comes in.
Yes.
So it is something that, we're going to make sure that is done right. I think, I know Mark will probably comment more on I think a lot of it is just getting people comfortable. That one, unfortunately, this is not going away. This is something we're going to be dealing with for a long time. Right. And we can't just lock ourselves in our homes forever because it's going to, even if we did that, when we reemerge, it will still be there.
Right.
It is something that we're going to have to figure out how to do things and how to still live our lives so that we're not talking about all the things you all were talking about before, and that people's lives aren't as affected, and people can move forward and have relationships and continue to function as a society similar to what we know.
Definitely. Mark
Can
Jackson?
I ask Mark a follow-up? Mark Zimmerman, you had mentioned you're going to start focusing on the indoor events. Are any of those meeting or conferences or conventions, have we started moving back towards that? I know all of mine for the summer has been canceled or gone virtual, but
Yeah.
have you seen any indication?
So, right. So the meetings and conferences, no, but the consumer type shows, yes.
Okay.
So RP Funding Center will kick off with some consumer shows also in July. One of their fancy flea events, I think a boat show, and another consumer show in July. So those are going to be, we've been talking to them on a constant basis about how do you do meetings? Is it a meeting that required 10,000 square feet in the past, now requires 20,000 square feet, so that you can separate people. A 10 top turns into a 5 top, for a banquet, whatever it might be. Those are all the considerations that are constantly being talked about and trying to figure out, in addition to how often do you clean. Obviously those are increasing. I think we've all seen, and you certainly see all the comments from the people that are going to Legoland right now. Legoland's open and running.
Yes.
and a lot of great information, even just on social media, from the people that are visiting, about the awesome job that they're doing to make sure that their visitors are safe, the cleaning protocols that they've put in place for their staff, that it really is functioning in a to where they're able to operate very well and not impact the guests as much as possible. Now that's certainly right now. Hopefully we see some more lines there. The more lines we have there, the more people we have there, and that means more people in our county spending more money. But it is, we see them slowly coming back. I know Stream Song had a smaller conference already. That was saw some of the pictures from that. Again, it's people spacing out, making sure they're doing things in the appropriate manner at this point.
Okay.
And to add to that, I was, I've been kind of following Reopen for events countywide to see how different agencies are doing things. And I did see in Winter Haven the reemerging of a couple of events, and I thought this was very clever. They made it a 2-day event as opposed to a 1-day event. So the social distancing of time to make those events available possible is another avenue that I'm seeing. Now that's probably the third city that I've seen do an event that would typically be a 1-day event as a 2 or a 3-day event to try and reduce the numbers that are coming to the event.
Yeah, the first baseball event we had back here, I think turned into a 5-day event when what would have normally been a 3-day event, so that they had more time in between to clean the dugouts between the sessions, and make sure that normally for a baseball tournament or a softball tournament or any sports tournament, that team is like waiting there for the next team to vacate. So that right now that can't happen. You've got to have some time in between there for the staff to get in there and spray that area down before the next team moves in. So they definitely which I guess maybe is good for us because it's creating some more overnight stays. So we like to see longer events.
I like that. That is good news.
Hey,
So
Jane, one other sort of corollary to what Mark was talking about. We really haven't talked about this too much, but we've invested tens of thousands of dollars. I really don't quite want to see the price tag. I sort of know what it is. We bought a ton of these backpack sprayers, sanitizers. They're kind of like the Clorox Pro for outdoor and indoor events and even meetings, to kind of answer Sylvia's question.
I love that.
Yeah, the purchase of hand sanitizers, wipes, masks. I mean, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars, but I know Justin LaFerrier and his visitor services staff, there's nobody even close to what they've done in the state. They've been out, I think they've distributed 1,500 of these window clings, and then also these floor signage. You just put them on the floor, you put them on the window, and we can get to whomever in the northeast quadrant that would like them. A lot of that's, for your information too. But
They
they're
have
all
been
in
by to
restaurants.
see us.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
in restaurants. They're in. We put some in gyms. Any place that people are congregating. We want this county safe,
Yes.
not only for our own citizens and families, but also for our guests that are coming in. That investment and that strategy that Chris was talking about earlier, to make sure we're safe and we communicate the safety, is critically important as part of our marketing strategy. But it has a more practical and humane component to it too. So that was something that we insisted on as a group, as individuals. So that is, they're all over the county. So any of your clients, any of your people that would like any of that, Justin and his team, they will deliver them. They'll even put them up for you. So you just have to let us know. And also hand washing stations. So a lot of these things are at events already. Or have been at events and are available for events too. So it's just sort of something to keep within the community that here we're ready to help, love to do it, and if we're safe, our customers are going to be safe,
Right.
and that's what's most important.
Jane, can I do a shameless plug real quick?
Yes.
We are hoping in July to get back to our first luncheon, and Chris is going to be our speaker.
Oh, wonderful.
Chris
don't know
Caprios
what-
over here?
Yes,
No.
yes. So
Man, you're really hitting the bottom of the barrel, aren't you?
we're super excited, but I'm waiting for the city to let us know what that's going to look like. And but maybe I need to bring you in, Chris, with those meetings to tell them how we can do this and make it happen.
So
Because we
funny.
are ready to get back into networking, but we want to do it safely. And so, yeah, we're really excited to have you speak for us that day and give us an update. So
Nobody tells me anything
July
around here.
23rd. Sorry, Chris, if I threw you under the bus.
I think I was originally scheduled for April. Well, obviously that
Yes.
that changed. So.
Yeah, so, but yeah, Justin and them, that staff, they've been down here, they've checked on us, they've brought us the social distancing stickers, and I see them all over the area. So thank you very much for what y'all are doing. You're doing a great job.
We're all part of a team, and you're a big part of our team, believe it. And people in Haines City and the Northeast Quadrant ought to know that. But I think our biggest resource, and I've said this for years, is the fact that it isn't our capital resources in Polk County, it's our human resources.
I
And
agree.
I'll put this county against anybody when it comes to working together, cooperating, and getting things done. It's really what it's all about. So anyway, that's a
Absolutely.
little-
Honored to be here.
yeah,
Well-
well, you guys have a good team up there, believe me. We're always happy to, with the exception of Cindy, she just yells at me all the time. I'm just teasing. I'm totally kidding. I just like to tease Cindy because she always smiles, even if it's not funny.
Well, listen, guys, at Sports Marketing, and I've called you that for years. I know the official title is Polk County Tourism and Sports Marketing. Our county absolutely would not be the same, not only without your division, but without your expertise and what you bring to the table on behalf of our residents and our economic development. We thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to working with you as we all reopen.
Yes.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's great to see all of you again.
You too. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Look forward to seeing you in July.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
For those of us on Zoom right now, I appreciate your participation. You have been phenomenal hosts for this entire time. We're looking forward to continuing this segment once a month. It'll be called something completely different. But we are very important. We are all essential, and we all need to get everyone back to work.